Your God self is all love, wisdom, and power. Your own God self doesn't know imperfection. Your own God self is the perfection. It is all the love, wisdom, and power, which is accessible. It is available. The ignorance of not knowing about your God self presence is that which keeps the imperfection. Your God self essentially is you. It is your being at the deepest level. It is the individuated part of you, the individuated God self, who has taken an individuated form. And it's equally knowing the self. It is knowing the self as the self. And it has taken the individuated form. And all these beings who have realized their true essence then realize also that within themselves there is something which is already perfect, which already has all love, all wisdom, all power. And that is their own God self presence. Everything becomes more and more clear. We are seeing more clearly, evidently, and obviously how things work, how things are, how things really are, how they originate, how they happen. Here in the human realm, there is a lot of alienation. There is a lot of confusion, a lot of doubts and worries. Even the science, the current science, is still focused mainly to describe the phenomena, such as describing how the earth is spinning around the sun, how the solar system is working, but not really seeing the deeper connectedness, not really seeing the nature of the earth, the nature of the earth. So primarily the current science is mostly descriptive. And that is a reflection of the human condition, that instead of living our lives, we constantly, people constantly are thinking, they're putting labels and describing everything. So this labeling and the description, or trying to describe everything, is essentially utilizing only one set of skills, only a small stream of limited linear mind. It is just one ability, one stream of utilization. Then there is emotional component to feel, how things are, not only to describe, but then to feel, and also to use not only your five senses, but to use your higher senses, which is called presence, before senses, before the five senses. And there are many other deeper senses that one can utilize to be connected with the universe the way it is. The imperfection is that which is distorted, that which is not as it really is. It's called an error. Yes, it's an error. It's a wrong assumption. It's a we can also say disempowerment or self-disempowerment. Now you may think that the world is challenging and many things are disempowering you, but actually in many ways you are disempowering yourself, because you don't know how things really are. You don't know how things really are. So if for a second you would know that nothing is missing, for example, that nothing is missing, but on the other hand, you have abundance of the feeling that a lot of things are missing and a lot of things are wrong. So in the instant now, what really happens is that you're constantly giving the power away to the feeling that something is missing, to the feeling that something is wrong. Yes, to the feeling that you are not enlightened, to the feeling that you are limited. So in other words, you are supporting that which is imperfect. You are supporting the idea that something is missing. You are supporting the idea that something is wrong. You are supporting the idea that things are imperfect. You are supporting the idea that there are many things are wrong in the world. And this is how you are ignoring your own God presence. Because your own God presence is all the power. It is all the love, all the wisdom, all the gifts that you actually have. But now look at it from a higher perspective. So, from the higher perspective, your own God self is perfection and so on. And then, as things descend into the 3D level, a person which is so much programmed and habituated is only believing what it is programmed with. So ignoring every attempt of the God self to try and help you out to this, physical, mental computer. And only when a person, meditates and starts opening up, that a person starts to receive more of this perfection, more of this love, more of this wisdom, more of this power. So the first step is to firstly know that your God self is all perfection, all love, wisdom, and power that you are longing for, including happiness, freedom, and joy, and peace. And all of these qualities are normal to your own God self. So knowing this, that it is your God self who has all of those things that you are, ever wanted, knowing this first of all. Yes, because even at this step number one, there can be many errors, because you may assume that the God self is not you, is maybe somebody else. You have assumption that you don't have it, that it's not part of you. Well, you do have it. Every single being has their God self. Yeah. So therefore, perhaps this guru or teacher that you have encountered is already in touch and integrated to a certain extent with their own God self. But you need to know that you also have that it is your own God self. Yeah. So this is the step number one, is to have clarity of the most important step number one. Because if you make a mistake there, again, you're giving your power away. Even the Buddha's message was the same, that do not worship this appearance, because this appearance is relative. The true nature is we are all that, or all that is all that, and that's you too. And at the higher level, that also dissolves, because that ultimate oneness is realized. So the step number one is very, very important, to realize that, to acknowledge and to know that there is your God self presence, which is all powerful, all loving, all wise. So once you get that into your bones, then you start to look around and to see, okay, so knowing this, the first and most important thing, what is the second step? The second step is to recognize what, the qualities. Perhaps for you, it is about intelligence, wisdom, power, or perhaps for you, it is about peace, or maybe it's about happiness and joy. Or perhaps for you, it is about love, intimacy, connection, devotion, in this form, in the heart, in the heart chakra form. So various people have various ways to relate and to recognize their own God self. So we recognize that that is within you. It's not external. It's not somebody's else. So a good teacher will help you, yes, to know that you have that too. It is within you too. And let's work on it. Let's help you out with that. And let's find the most effective way, what will help you, your highway, how to do that. So there are many approaches, yes, through the heart, through the intellect, through all different ways, and peace and freedom and joy and happiness. There are many different roads, many different qualities that each of you resonate with, that each of you can recognize as perfection. Yeah, for some people, perfection is peace, stillness. For others is joy and excitement. And for others is love, and so on and so on. There are many qualities, many qualities. In any way you can, that is related to you, you can notice the qualities of perfection, that you do have some qualities of perfection in one way or another, that you have experienced those qualities in one way or another. Whatever that means to you, whatever way you experience that, this is the most important. Your way is the most important. So again, a good teacher would recognize that there are many different ways, not only my way, there are many different ways, and being open to find what is your way of exploring that, what is your way of finding that. So that's step number 2. Then we recognize that what is in the way. What is in the way? Imperfection is in the way. All the troubles are in the way. All the problems are in the way. Yeah, so then we explore the nature of these problems. Yeah, we'll look at the ways of how you can overcome those problems. What is the highway to go through those issues and problems and to transcend them, so that you can arrive more and more to your own God self presence, perfection, love, wisdom, and power. As we look at the nature of all these problems, in one way, I can tell you a big keyword. This big keyword is weakness. Yes, weakness and ignorance, or in other words, not knowing. Not knowing the truth, how things are, and then the weakness. Not knowing how to do it, not finding the empowering way of opening that up. So weakness is a big issue. Weakness then also relates, perhaps to discipline, perhaps to effort, and finding the way, empowering way that works for you. The second issue, which then depends even more on you, is willingness, because there are many people who are very they're big achievers. They want to this and this and that, but their willingness and dedication can quickly fade away into some other thing. So they drop off and they take sideways, so to speak. So willingness, dedication, finding that strength, finding the empowering way is what will make this journey successful. Yes. So as we then investigate and look at the weaknesses, we find that in many, many ways, you are actually supporting the imperfection. In many ways, you are subscribing to the weakness. In many ways, you are giving your power away. In many ways, you allow your energy to be wasted. And there are so many ways that people do that. How people waste their energy, give their power away, and support that which is unhealthy. Support that which drains your energy. A very simple example is anger, blame. As soon as you blame someone, you instantly give your power away. Instantly. And people are so unconscious, they don't even realize it, how instantly that's it, they lose their power. Anger as well, losing the power, losing your centeredness, losing your ability to be centered, to remain, to pause, to non-react, and to develop more wisdom, more understanding. So that's where, there are so many ways that people approach it. There are many yogic lineages, there are many teachings, there are many tools and techniques and healing methods, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands. First, to acknowledge that it is already here. The God, my own God self, is already here. And then you recognize, okay, well, the distance, the gap might be quite big. You say, all right, so the perfection is good, but then there are a lot of issues, obviously, popping, right, becoming obvious, that there are a lot of problems, a lot of oppositions to this acknowledgement. You see, if you haven't acknowledged it firmly within yourself, even for a second, the opposition, the opposing force might take you away. Yeah, we know that the average human being is connected to their own God self only 4%, the average human being. So it's a big solar eclipse. Just 4%, meaning just there is barely enough energy to make through the day. Yeah, for the average human being. The rest is wasted. The rest is obscured. The rest is supporting the untruth. The rest is supporting the imperfection. And this is the story of the average human being. Now, of course, you are all not the average human beings. You are all already progressing forward. You are opening. So your percentage is higher. Yeah, your percentage is high. Maybe it's 8%, which is twice more than 4. Maybe it's 12. Maybe it's 20. Yeah, but still there is a lot which is supporting the imperfection, supporting the something which is consuming your energy in the unhealthy way, in a not empowering way. Now, of course, it won't be a miracle that, that next morning you wake up and you're 100% your own God self. It's a super, 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 super rare thing that ever happened in the human history. There is some work to do, let's put it this way. And there is a lot of work to do. And there are a lot of things that you can do, for sure. But there are a lot of things which are your blind spots, which are unconscious. And therefore, that's where a guide is needed. A guide, in other words, a teacher or guru. I like to use the word a guide, the one who can guide you through your blind spots, through your unconsciousness, through your weaknesses, and to support you to overcome them, to support you to see them, and to support you to rise into your own God self. This is the real duty of a guide. Yeah, so the guide is the one who is there ready to a certain degree, who fully knows the way, what's involved, the path to take and so on, and who can help you out to get there as well. Now, of course, to make it very complete, the integration of your own God self presence is an ever advancing process. There are some teachers who say, oh, that's it, yes, that's it, in a way that you have realized, your God self, you have realized the openness, the essence. So realization of the essence, of the openness, of the consciousness itself, of the self, it's the first step. It's not the end. It's the first step. You realize that, yes, I am that. You disidentify from all of the things that you are not, and you identify that, yes, I am that. But that's the first step. And most of the teachers stop right there. That's it. Yes, I'm that. But then it's the first step. But then there's what is called self-actualization. Now let's put this into practice. Okay, now you got it, you realized it, but let's put it into practice. Yes, and let's integrate that. And the practical side of that and the integral part of that is what I call advancement. And this advancement, so it's not a self-realization. Self-realization is step number one. Step number two, which is infinite, and that's the beautiful side of it, is the advancement. Yes, and this is why we see so many God self-realized beings or enlightened beings. There are many throughout the human history, and they're very different. Most of them are very, very different. We could categorize, them in certain categories, that these beings focus on this, these beings show these kind of qualities or that kind of qualities. But there are many beings and they're very different. They have portrayed many different qualities, and degrees of advancement, degrees of integration. And therefore, this is the most amazing part, the most exciting part, that that at the end of the day, every effort you put towards the self-perfection or God self-perfection, God self-realization, actualization, and advancement, every little effort that you put in that direction, it counts. It does count. Whichever road you take, to be honest, whichever road you take, first of all, it's your road. That's number one. Yeah, it's not, this is the most important, it's your road. And every effort you put towards that, your own God self realization and advancement, it counts, it adds up. And ideally, you enjoy the road. You enjoy this journey of returning to your own God self presence. And you develop more and more awareness. So this is the biggest picture, really, of all the most important aspects of it. Yes, and then we can split, into different aspects, into different paths, whether it's the self-enquiry, a yogic path, or, the heartful way. There are so many ways and so many branches and paths that one can take, and many different religions, traditions, and spiritual systems and yogic systems have many, many different approaches. And I would recommend, to be flexible. And this is my recommendation, to be flexible, to, be willing and flexible to explore all the different ways, and at some point you need specifically this, and maybe next week or next month you're going to need something totally else. Yes, I find many people who find something and then they stick with it, and then they spend 3-5 years just doing the same thing and expecting that they're going to progress. It doesn't work like that. It worked for you 3 years ago, and yeah, it works. That was 3 years ago. And you made your progress, and then they just they don't know what to do else, so they just keep doing the same thing, and they're not moving forward, in a larger sense. So then you need to change your perspective, change practice, change a direction, and explore something else. So that's what I mean by flexibility. Because some people who progress, relatively quickly, you know, we do very different things. We do one thing one week, next month we do something totally else, next month again, 108 degrees, something very else, very different. Yeah, and that's how you truly grow. And also, I love the approach of self-transcendence. Self-transcendence. So it means that we don't get, cozy and cushy and camping, in our comfort zone. We found something and that's it. We make a nest, and now, this is gonna be my cozy corner, and that's, my thing now, and the rest of the world, doesn't matter. And now I will isolate myself into this lovely cozy nest that I created for myself. And while it works for that time, when you find it, when you discover it, when you enjoy it, but then probably after a month, it's time for the little birdie to, to come out of their nest and learn how to fly. Yeah. So that's called self-transcendence, that you continuously transcend your limitations, you transcend yourself. Yeah, and this is not easy, but I will tell you, when you get used to it, it gets easier. Yeah, when you get used to transcending your own limitations, then it's easy. Then, okay, what's the next thing? How else can I challenge myself in enjoyable way? In the enjoyable way. And this way, your soul advances, develops, attains many new experiences, and you truly flower and bloom in many, many ways that you even couldn't think about, you couldn't even fathom about in the past. It adds up not only in this lifetime, by the way. The interesting part that the things that you add up in a constructive direction towards your own God self-perfection, it adds up to all your lifetimes. It adds up to the vast pool of experiences of your soul, of the gifts and powers that you attain. And therefore, that is the true, we can say, activity, the true investment that you can make in this lifetime. Because all other things, all your money and your houses and your cars and all those things that you have accumulated at the door of ascension or leaving the body, they will become meaningless. They're just objects that you leave behind. And what do you take with you? You take that which you have advanced. Yeah, you take that, all those connections to your own God self that you have made consciously, that you have integrated, and you literally have the open highway, the open door to the heavens, to the divine, to speed along. And you actually quite joyfully, leave all the things behind, and because you know that the next chapter is going to be even more exciting.